Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for Living Hope, a weekly journey designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer, sharing the real-life stories of those really affected by this deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. And today, well, we'll give you a little hope today here. We've got two longtime pancreatic cancer survivors talking about how you can make an impact and maybe not just rely on somebody else to figure out the answers. Let's find out about research and impact funds and other things here, right, Roberta?
Right. We're going to educate myself as well, because there's a lot of things here I wasn't familiar with. So I'm really happy to welcome back Rob Panacci, and he's a recurring guest. He's been here a number of times, and we really appreciate everything he brings to the program and to all of our listeners.
Now, you still mispronouncing his name.
I know, and
though.
I was hoping you would catch it.
Panacci. Panacci. You got to put a little Italian in it there.
And you know how many times I practice it and I listen to it?
Panacci.
If there's an award out there for most screw-ups, I'm going to get it. So
Thank you.
I think in the future I'm going to let guests just introduce themselves. But anyway, you can. I'm sorry. You can catch up on Rob's journey through any podcast platform, or also on OC Talk Radio's YouTube channel. So I invite you all to catch up on what he's been doing, because we have a lot to cover, and I don't want to take up too much time. But hi, Rob. Thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate, like I said, you being here, and you have a lot of great information. We just want to dive in and get to it.
Yeah, thank you. I'm super excited. It's as you know, we've got Purple Stride coming up in just over a week, so that's been very busy and exciting. And then all the things we're going to talk about today about Cancer Fund and the impact investing mission.
Let's set the stage for that a little bit, because I don't want to get political, but obviously we're living in a time when we're seeing massive cuts in the federal funding for lots of programs here. Sometimes I think they're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. I get we want to save costs, and maybe there is waste and fraud and other sorts of things. But cancer has been impacted huge, right? The funds for cancer across the board are down, 50% or something?
Yeah, 57%. And then for the one that's designated for pancreatic cancer research in its own, we will be receiving a zero this year.
Zero this year. All right, think of that for a moment. And particularly this is affecting, we're at research universities like the University of California, Irvine here. They're seeing their research funds cut dramatically. I always thought they were the ones that did this. Who else has the time, the money? The federal government, through research centers and universities around the country, put in pure science dollars to try and find breakthroughs. And somebody else takes those at some point and turns them into a drug, a product, a business, whatever. But somebody has to invest in that hard research. And I always thought, if it ain't the government and the universities, big business, there is no way to fund research.
Yeah, no, it's a very difficult thing, and that's where that dependency on the university systems. And if anything good does come out of this, it's hopefully that universities will feel both invigorated and empowered to start up some of those research programs again. I know that in Canada, that's one of the things that I've heard that the university systems are doing, is trying to take on more of that burden, because what happens is that's sort of foundational research, or kind of like the bare minimum we need and the principles that we need proven out to be able to take to full development, so that especially here, companies can take that and then drive that development along further, so that they can go and take it to the FDA, and then take it to clinical trials, and then get it to the general market and really reap the benefits of those. And as you said, while you understand the need to ensure that we're being efficient at the federal level and even at the state level, and that we're focused on spending money wisely, there's no cancer that's been beaten that I know of. Every cancer is complicated. Every cancer has got its own issues. And when we talk about pancreatic cancer specifically, we're still dealing with a 13% survival rate after 5 years. We're still dealing with over 2/3, if not more, of people being diagnosed within the first year succumbing to that disease and passing.
And let me pass out two other stats that I've heard on this show. I never knew. See if I've got these right. One is, at a fundamental level, we still don't know where pancreatic cancer comes from. Is it genetic? Is it environmental? Is it health style, a lifestyle, diet, whatever? That seems to be one of the issues. And the other one I'll throw in at the same time is there isn't a simple blood test that tells you you've got it. You have to rule out a bunch of other things before you really hone in. At first, it's just my back hurts or this happens. And that's why so many people, it develops to a stage where it's deadly because it doesn't get diagnosed quick, as opposed to prostate cancer, which I talk about all the time. Same thing,
Right.
was extremely deadly until they came up with a blood test. Now you go and get a PSA test or whatever it is, and bingo, you're onto something here.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and that's one of the challenges with pancreatic is that it can be both genetic and environmental, and it is complicated in terms of the way it works. The triggers and kind of the things that you feel might seem symptomatic of something else, and by the time that the doctors are able to find that quickly and do something about it, it may often be too late. It's either metastasized or it's gotten big enough. In my example, where I got very lucky was my tumor was just starting to touch the main artery in my abdomen. Had that tumor been given, I don't know, maybe a week, a month, or however long to attach to that artery or wrap around it, surgery would have been impossible because it is such a delicate area that any nick doctors wouldn't be able to stop the bleeding. So there's so many dangers to it, and as we learn more and more, cancer cells are sneaky. They have the ability to hide. They have the ability to deflect different therapies that are coming through, and that's one of the things that we're trying to do with Cancer Fund is look specifically for those companies that are trying to develop, whether it be liquid biopsies, whether it be understanding cancer cells and healthy cells more so that therapies become better, trying to do some early detection based on fundamental data around a patient's health history. I've seen a couple of companies, one in particular, and we've talked about Dr. Sharif before out at Citrus Oncology in Florida. One of the things that she's trying to do, not only with her expertise in knowing and understanding the endocrine system, but using the data that she's getting from patients to see if there's any type of predictability based on what a patient has, type 2 diabetes or problems with their immune system, et cetera, to see if we can get more predictive and find out about cancers earlier. And then taking a look at patients post-cancer treatment and saying, okay, what impacts have the therapies or treatments they've gone through, what are they having on their immune system and endocrine system? And are there things that we need to do to supplement to make sure that cancer doesn't come back in some way? It's one example of companies that are out there that have taken, the basic research, the foundations that we've talked about before, and then extrapolated it out to some real mechanisms, some real tools, some real information that can be used to just keep building on and just getting smarter about cancer in general. But they can't do it without funding, right? Unfortunately, funding drives a lot of these innovations. They drive a lot of these companies to go forward. And what we're trying to do with Cancer Fund is to ensure that, one, we're sourcing out these companies with the great opportunities that haven't quite made it to get to FDA, and then connecting our community, which we look at it more as impact investing. So usually when you think of venture capital or impact investing, you're thinking about the great strides that Facebook made at the beginning to get money and develop out their platforms, or Uber, who've raised over $10 billion in that, SpaceX, et cetera. All these AI/technology companies. We don't often think about it in terms of health. So when you're thinking about impact investing, which impact investing is exactly what it says, you're trying to make an impact on something in your community that's troubling you. Could be the environment, could be the homeless problem, could be a number of reasons that you want your community to get better. And in this case, our case, we focus on all cancers. And we bring like-minded people to say, hey, if this is something that you feel is important, not only do you have the potential to, make some great impacts in that space and improve your community, especially around that particular problem, but you also have the opportunity to potentially make a profit on that, similar to the way you invest in your mutual funds or, through your IRA or et cetera. Venture capital has a lot more restrictions on it based on who can and who can't invest. But that funding that you're putting into these companies, if those companies then can take that and turn it around and come up with a product that is going to increase survival rate or make therapy less intrusive, or make biopsies a little bit less intrusive, a liquid biopsy. If you could test cancer with a urine test versus having to put a patient under and go in surgically to find out what that tumor is doing, that's a lot easier. It's a lot less expensive. It's a lot more accessible to cancer patients everywhere.
And less intrusive, which is something we really need because it's very difficult to diagnose pancreatic cancer. But when you're approaching these companies, I mean, how do you get them interested? Because are a lot of them, I mean, they want the cancer that's going to, have the higher survival rate, or how do you get them interested in, especially in pancreatic cancer?
Yeah, reality is we have we have companies come to us, and these companies who feel that they have a real opportunity and a real solution, a novel solution to bring to market. They'll search out venture capital companies and investment companies and say, hey, we've got this potential opportunity. We need some additional funding to finish our testing to get to FDA, or we have to add a few components to our development. And those are companies that have gone beyond the research phase. And the reason for that is companies that, or universities, whoever's doing those parts of the research phase, it becomes a little more risky when you're trying to evaluate a company at that point. Where we get a clearer sense of their potential success comes when they're in, those certain parts of animal testing and development as from a company to promote that out, right?
Yeah, I see you sent me some information. I really appreciate it. But it looks like Phoenix is really emerging as a significant hub for medical tech and biotech industries. Why is that? Why do you think that is? And what is it all about?
I think that's a great question. One of the things that we've seen, and often you think, so I moved down to Phoenix in 2005. And one of the things I noticed was that it really was sort of, although a big city, it was almost a quiet community of companies. We had some, companies around that were doing things, and then we started to see, kind of after the market crash, and we started to see companies come in that were developing things like the microchips, like sophisticated manufacturing capabilities, and lately we've seen a great influx of companies that are focused on the med tech and biotech community. We've got organizations like Mayo and Arizona State University have come together, and they're investing $2 billion to build a campus that will specifically be focused on medicine and research in the cancer areas and other various areas where they can help drive some of that change. We've got some great bio-specific companies that are doing some of that initial research. We've got companies here that are working with the foundations. Someone like PanCan can reach out to some of the development companies here and say, hey, we understand you've got some therapies or therapeutics that can be used now I'm forgetting the word, in a clinical trial phase. Can we partner up some patients with you? One, it gives the patients opportunities to take advantage of some of these novel ideas. And two, it gives the companies the ability to do more research, right? And the whole community is sort of coming together. Banner MD Anderson even Arizona, University of Arizona, there is a focus to get more of this research done, to bring more of this research along the path to market. And along with that comes a really nice ecosystem of support, both from a tactical perspective, right? Companies that you need to do the blood work, take the blood work, manage all of that. Companies that build buildings specifically with the appropriate types of labs to do this type of research. Wet labs and other kind of secure areas where that your research, your development is going to be clean and not contaminated in any way. And like I said, and the venture companies who are willing to bring investors to those opportunities, a private capital. So it's not like the stock market. It's not like you're investing in a stock. You're taking your own money and investing it all through proper fiduciary mechanisms to provide funding for those companies to go further. And at Cancer Fund, that's one of the things that I found so great about it when I started collaborating with the founder. They had a number of companies in their pipeline. As I said, they were approached, but they didn't really have anything specifically, specific focus on pancreatic cancer, which is difficult for a number of reasons. We talked earlier about the complexity of it, but we also talked about the fact that although it's very deadly, it doesn't have the scale of some of the other cancers. And I've used the phrase before, and I don't like to say it, but some of the more popular cancers where there are bigger numbers behind it usually get the majority of that funding because they do have more resources to take a look at a person prior to getting cancer and researching what happens to them after they get cancer. We had talked about prostate cancer on one of these programs before. Used to be on average 300,000 people a year get prostate cancer in the U.S. And unfortunately 30,000 die. But that used to be a much higher number in terms of mortality. With the research that they were able to do with those types of numbers, you're able to see more information, get more data, get more interest, and drive things like early detection and improved therapies along a little bit further. And then that mortality rate drop dramatically. We want to do the same thing with pancreatic. Although the pool is smaller, I think we said there's probably about 68,000 Americans who will be diagnosed with pancreatic cancer this year, and about 52,000 that will succumb to it. So that's a small sample size, but that doesn't mean it shouldn't get attention. And that's where we're at Cancer Fund trying to bring that, along with the other cancers that we've invested in, the other cancer innovation. We're trying to look for those innovations that are really going to make an impact on early detection, on diagnostic, on treatment. As you know, Roberta, treatment of pancreatic cancer is tough. The chemos that they use are very strong because they need to be aggressive to keep it from moving. And the surgeries, they're life-changing, right? I know with me, it took me about a year just to get my energy back. So it's an important thing. It's an important piece of what we're doing. And again, it's bringing a community together to say, within a growing community here in Phoenix, to say, this cancer requires a lot more attention, a lot more focus. How do we motivate some of these companies to do better faster?
Yeah, and that's a good question. I think actually Paul has a question for you.
Okay.
I'm here at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center, a similar kind of facility, public-private partnership with the University of California, Irvine, where they're trying to take technology, mostly med tech and medicines, and find a way to take this research and turn it into something, a company, a business, or whatever. So one of the problems they have, two problems. One, to get investors involved. It's a long process to bring a drug or treatment to market, 10 years or more. People don't want to wait 10 years to see some payoff for this. And along the way, a lot of them drop out or fall out or fail or fizzle or whatever here. Talk about how difficult it is to get investors for this, as opposed to investing in, I don't know, a new app, a new thing, Uber, whatever, where there's a quick turnaround and immediate 10x return. Do you have to do some education, or is it motivation that these people are relying on? They want to make a difference.
It's a little bit of both. I think education on the one part is ensuring that investors know that those opportunities are out there. And unfortunately, it's the revenue models of some of those other more attractive type of technologies that usually get a lot of the money.
Right.
Food apps alone, you can name 4 food apps, and I added up their venture capital funds before they started. We were at $17 billion.
Right.
That's billion, and then a billion towards, how to order a pizza online versus just calling up
really
the store.
Important things that impact our community here, right? Yeah.
Right.
Change our lives.
Yet we're struggling with the fact that they took the full $15 million away from the Department of Defense that was specifically focused on pancreatic cancer. So I think that is, part of the education within the community that says there are other things out there that may have a longer timeline, but their benefit, not only on the financial side, if they happen to achieve that benefit on that financial side, chances are, and we know how, without pushing any boundaries, we know how lucrative new medicines, new therapies, new diagnostics
that's why
can be.
They're willing to spend $1 billion to bring them to market. Yeah.
Right. But you got to get them to the point where they've proven out their business model, they've proven out their technology to be worthy of getting that type of funding. So there's a long period in between that. And one of the things that, like, the importance of the ecosystem that we were talking about just a minute ago, is that the supporting companies, around the U.S. that can help that research sort of get to the next level, into the hands of people that can take it from there and then develop it into a full-blown product that's proven, tested, and ready to go to clinical trial, and then approved by the government for the public. That's the long pole in the tent, right? And so funds like Cancer Fund will try and find those companies. There's a bit of a balance, because you want to balance the risk. I mean, you are taking people's investment dollars, but you also have to ensure that the people who are providing those investment dollars understand, this is a long-term vision, right? This is not we're going to get the web app out there and immediately start generating revenue based on a subscription model. This is, we've got to take this through the FDA. We've got to get it done through clinical trials. And then if it proves out like we thought, and here's the evidence that we feel it should, then we're either going to go to market via IPO and let the market estimate what our company is valued at, and people can invest in that, or one of the larger medtech, biotech,
just simply
pharmaceutical
buy you
companies,
out. Yeah.
just buy you out. Yeah, and that's fine too. I mean, because sometimes that's where it needs to lead. Like, a company has to get to a point where that says, "Hey, we're doing something that the pharmaceutical company might not be totally focused on, or we've taken a different tack and found something that they might not have had. Now we're willing to provide that to them." For remuneration based on all of the efforts that we've put in place so far, so that they can take it to a higher level.
Last 5 minutes, Roberta. What do you want to ask? A lot of information. We're letting him talk here, and that's what it needs to happen here.
I've had too much coffee this morning.
No, you're making my time here a lot easier, because I don't have to say anything, and which is good right now with my throat being kind of weird. But no, you just have so much information. I'd rather you just give it to us. But if somebody wants to get involved or wants to find out more about Cancer Fund, how do they do that? What do they need to do?
First of all, they have to be a qualified investor, though, right?
You do have to be a qualified investor, and
which means what? You have to have $250,000 or more. I forgot.
There's
outside of your house.
There's a couple. Yeah, there's a couple different things within your guidelines that says yes. There's a specific net worth. There's a specific evidence of revenue that you have through how much you pay, how much you report in taxes, whether it be by yourself or what your family does, funding together. You can be educated and have certification as an investment professional. But there's also laws in place where we're trying to change that. Currently in Congress, they're looking to relax those rules a little bit so that the everyday person can get involved. With Cancer Fund, you have to be an accredited investor, but you don't have to come in with bags of money. $100 investment gets you invested into the fund, gets you a view of kind of the companies that we're looking at. And then we work with you and the rest of the community to say, okay, where's the best place to put this money? So, for as little as $100, as long as you're accredited, you can invest. If anybody has any questions around this and more detail around the things that we're focused on, they can email me directly, Robert.Panacci, Panacci, at cancerfund.com, or they can look us up online, cancerfund.com, and it'll take you through, what our mission is and how to get signed up. And even if you're not an accredited investor, we welcome people into the community to say, hey, we want your thoughts, and we want to be able to share with you kind of what we're doing. And then if at some point you decide you can or want to be an investor, then you can help us and those companies out as well.
Again, the time, it always goes by so quickly when we talk, and there's always so much to talk about in such little time. So definitely we have to have you come back as always, but also because I want to talk about some promising technology, because we also need to let people know some things that are going. And I know you have some things here, but I don't want to start something and then have to break away. So maybe we'll save that for another day, unless you have something you want to go over real quickly.
Yeah, just quickly. So, my philosophy, especially when I was first diagnosed, was hope, right? And hope to me is important, but you can't just hope to win a marathon and never train. Hope is through understanding what your challenge is. Hope is through planning on how to get to a better level. Hope is collaborating with the right people and the people around you to make better outcomes. When you look at the community, this ecosystem that we talked about, and the next time we'll talk about some of the great advancements that have been made, that hope just grows because it's got all this impetus and momentum behind it. Now it's just trying to work through the challenges of the funding cuts and education to our investors and to our community members, and bringing that all in to create some real great things in the future.
Well, thank you again. And yes, we definitely will have you come back and talk about the other things. I'm sure that we could probably do a monthly series with you. So we'll have to look into that.
But you have to learn how to say his name.
I know. I'll figure it
Panacci.
out. I'll figure it out somehow.
There you go. Someone actually wrote Pagliacci the other day.
There you go. The same thing.
One time I actually called you somebody else because I have a friend with that similar last name, so I really messed up. But I'll get it right. I'll get it right.
I'm just happy you call me.
Well, thank you. Yeah, that was my dad's thing. Call me late as long as you call me for dinner, right?
Right.
Well, thank you again. As Long as You Speak My Name, I Shall Live Forever is dedicated to Peggy Kessler. Peggy was a great inspiration, and you talk about hope. This was somebody that gave me a lot of hope. She was diagnosed in 2001 and was the first survivor that I had met that had pancreatic cancer. Sadly, Peggy died in 2018 after reoccurrence, but she was a 17-year survivor when she passed, and a great inspiration besides being 10 feet tall. Not only in my eyes, but when we stood next to each other, it always looked like I was standing in a hole. But anyway, she was a great person, and I miss her and her hope that she always passed on. So thank you.
Well, there you have it. Some hope. Some reason to tune in each and every time to join us on this journey we call Living Hope, your journey with pancreatic cancer. If you're on that journey and you need some help, lots of organizations, let's give you one. Patient Services at pancan.org. That's the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. You can call them at 877-2-PANCAN. That's 877-2-PANCAN. For the OC Talk Radio Network, I'm Paul Roberts, thanking you for joining us, hoping you'll join us again and share this journey with someone else who can benefit from it. Lots of ways we can band together to give hope to everybody in this community. As we stream live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.